Yes people, welcome back to the channel. So I'm already out on the bike today, and this is going to be the second evening ride I've taken since the clocks have changed. So the clocks have now changed in the UK. We have got lighter evenings. It should be getting dark around 8 o'clock tonight. We're already on about 6, quarter past 6, so we're on limited time to go for a bit of a ride. So let's get riding, and I'll talk about what we're going to be doing in today's video. So seeing as we're on a bit of a time limit, I thought, well, I've got 100% battery to kill in as quickly as I can possibly kill it. Normally when people do range tests, they're not riding as fast and as hard as they probably could be. So that gave me a bit of an idea tonight, seeing as we're on a bit of a time limit, to see what we can get out of the stock battery when we're trying to drain it. There will be a few differences that I've done to the bike, which is going to make this different from a stock range test. But even though I've done these changes to the bike, it is roughly going to be about the same results. So we started today's ride on 100%, and I'm basically just going to thrash the bike as much as possible to see how much battery we can kill before it gets dark, or whichever comes first. Either till we run out of battery or till we can't ride off-road anymore. So typically, out of a full charge on the stock Surron battery on the setup that I'm running, I can expect to see anywhere between sort of 20 and maybe 35 miles, obviously depending where you're riding, depending how hard you're riding. And there's obviously going to be things when you're riding that make a difference to the range. And the biggest thing really is going to be the speed that you ride. The faster you ride, obviously, the faster the battery is going to go down. The slower and more chilled out you ride, the longer that battery is going to last. So the ways that obviously you can make the battery last as long as possible is slow acceleration, having regen on, and the biggest thing that I found with the range is if you stay under 20 mile an hour, that's when you gain the most range out of a stock battery. And 20 mile an hour isn't exactly fast. I mean, it's not slow, but it's not exactly fast. So you won't have the time of your life when you're staying under 20 mile an hour, but that is where you'll get the most range out of your bike. That is where you will get the furthest amount of miles. But obviously, the slower you're going, the longer it's going to take you to get there. So let's talk about the changes I've done to the bike, which is obviously going to make a difference to the range. Two of them being main differences. The other ones are just little differences, but it will all play part in how long the bike's going to last. So one of the first things that I've done, obviously, which could drastically change the range depending on how you ride still, is I've done the Torp TC500 controller upgrade. So obviously with the Torp TC500, you're pushing a lot more power. You can get the bike up to top speed a lot quicker. Doesn't necessarily make your top speed a lot more. You do gain top speed having the TC500, but not loads. It's not like it's a 20 mile an hour difference. I'd say on average, the top speed difference would be on a stock Surron, you're probably going to get 47 mile an hour. On a Torp TC500 upgraded Surron, on my stock motor, I was actually getting about 57 mile an hour. And that was according to my speedo, which is fairly accurate, within a mile, within 1 mile an hour. So you could say I was getting 56 mile an hour out of my stock Surron motor with the TC500 and the stock battery. Obviously that's a near 10 mile an hour difference, 9 mile an hour, 10 mile an hour difference, which is, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't sound a lot, but you definitely feel that 10 mile an hour difference when you're riding the bike. So the first one being the controller upgrade. And the reason I say it doesn't change the range too much is when I first did the TC500 upgrade, even though I was riding quite fast and obviously with a lot more power, I was still getting roughly the same range as what I would have got on the stock controller with the stock battery. Let's have a quick look at the mileage we've done now, just for comparison. So according to this, we've done 3.3 miles in 15%. I did start on 100% battery. The trip counter on this obviously started at 0. We're on 3.3 and we've got 85% left. So the second difference that I've done to the bike, which could make a difference to the range compared to stock, is I've put the TM25 motor on the Surron as well, the Torp TM25, instead of obviously the stock Surron motor. And to be honest, I'm yet to do a lot of experimenting with this motor to see what the real differences are range-wise with the stock motor. So in theory, with the Torp TM25 motor being more efficient, having less resistance, you would have thought we'd get more mileage out of the Torp TM25 motor. But something I have found since upgrading the motor is a lot of the differences don't actually come from the motor itself. The differences are mainly coming from the controller and the battery. That's for speed, that's for power, that's for range, that's for everything. It seems like the motor is sort of the middleman, and the controller and battery are the two things that are going to hold you back with how much power you can draw, how fast you can go. And then we've done a few other upgrades on the bike that have actually made the bike heavier, the motor being one of them. The motor has definitely made the bike a bit heavier by about 2 kilograms, I think. The wheels are being one of the main factors in this, so the weight that the wheels added to the bike, that's surely got to affect the range. We're pulling more weight, so really we should be using more battery to pull that weight. So really with heavier wheels we should be getting less range. But saying that, with the wheels I've put on, it helps out in conditions like this. I mean, it's still not ideal riding conditions. There's still going to be some sketchy parts along this track that I'm riding. There's definitely one part where I have to take it really easy because of how much mud there is, but they do play part in giving us a lot more traction, making us grip a lot more, and just the way the bike feels handling off-road altogether, basically. So, oh, we've actually gone past 80%, and this is something I'm going to struggle with, is actually keeping an eye on the range. We're down to 77% and we've done 4.9 miles, so we are rinsing through that battery. It is definitely going down quite quickly compared to the amount of miles we're doing, and that's just from not thrashing the bike, but I'm not taking it slow, I'm not taking it easy. So another thing you want to be careful of when basically trying to drain the battery and riding at top speeds or high speeds a lot of the time is you've actually got to keep an eye on the battery temperature. And something I've noticed when using the Torp, when I do drain the battery fairly quickly compared to normal rides, the battery does get a bit hot. And I have had a battery temperature warning before, in fact a couple of times before, where the battery's got to about 60 degrees Celsius and the bike does send a little, not an error, but a warning saying that the battery is hot. And I presume if you start going any hotter, the bike will start cutting out power because they don't want you overheating that battery. It'll be a bit of a safety precaution. They'll be pretty much limiting the power to make sure you're not setting that battery on fire. So try and keep an eye on the battery here again. I think we've just gone down to 68% and we have done 6.6 miles. I should have mentioned as well that we're in full power mode. This is as fast as I can possibly ride, with the bike maxed out everything apart from field weakening, which I think I've got set down to about 30 amps because we're not really using top speed much. I'm not looking for a faster top speed, I'm just looking to ride fast and to see how long that battery lasts when we're riding fast. So I am gonna, like I say, keep an eye on the battery temperature, which I can see all on the Torp display while I'm riding. And the reason being, like I mentioned earlier, that battery is known to at least get a warning for overheating when it starts to get hot. And at the minute we're on about 45 degrees with it, which isn't mega hot. I've definitely had the battery hotter, and the faster you ride and the more you try and kill that battery, the hotter it gets. And like I say, I've had the battery at 60 degrees before and the bike sent me a warning. So it's not ideal. It's obviously not very good for the battery health either to get the battery mega hot. I have had this battery for about 1.5 years now though, and I've definitely noticed over time a bit of a degradation of the battery life. So for a start, when I used to go out on a ride, this was in stock bike form as well, it would stay on 100% for a good mile. Even when I get on the bike and I ride it for like half a mile, the battery goes down to about 99, whereas before it would just stay on 100 for quite a while. So you could tell the battery's not holding that full charge quite as long as it used to. So we've just got down to the 57% mark. I was meant to tell you at 60, and again I forgot because I'm useless, but 57%, and we've done 9.2 miles. So nearly half the battery in about nearly 10 miles, which when you look at it, that's nearly 20 miles to a full charge, which isn't terrible considering how fast we've been riding. These bikes do not like being ridden consistently at high speeds. They hate being ridden at top speed consistently. So if you're buying a Surron Light BX to ride on the road, personally I think you're a madman. If you're going to actually make it road legal and have it registered and not do any upgrades, I think you're a nutcase. These bikes just are not quick enough for normal roads. I mean, I know I'm on a road now, but I'm just using it as a cut through. But if I had to commute on this bike around the area I live, a lot of the roads around here are 60-mile-an-hour roads, and you'll find that the majority of the drivers, they do over 60 mile an hour. So if you're trying to keep up with the flow of traffic that's doing 60, 70 mile an hour, and you're on a little Surron Light B that's topping out at 47 mile an hour, and then you've got to stay consistently at 47 mile an hour at top speed to stay with the flow of traffic, it's just nuts. It's no good for the motor. It's no good for the battery. It's not good for a lot of things. So we're on 54%. I'll wait till we get down to 50% to tell you the mileage again. Okay, we just hit 50%. The reason I'm stopping to check the data is because it's quite small, and when you're going along the bumps and your head's shaking about, it's hard to read what you're actually on. So we've done 50% battery. We're on 10.9 miles, and the battery heat is at, we've got a cell temperature of 52 degrees, a discharge temperature of 48 degrees, and a T charge, I don't really know what that means, but that's also at 48 degrees. We're going to go off the highest. We're going to say we're on 52 degrees, that's getting slightly hot. We could even be having to stop to let the battery cool down a bit on this ride. It's very, very rare that I go out for a ride and I'm purposely trying to kill my battery. Normally I'm going out on a ride and I'm trying to preserve it for as long as possible. So it will be interesting to see how well the battery does perform under a lot of higher speeds and a lot more strain, basically. So another thing that I think actually will make a difference to the range of the bike is, as the battery gets hotter, I think it gives you less range. I think the battery wears down quicker when it's hotter, and for that reason it doesn't last as long. When I go on rides and I'm trying to save a bit of battery and preserve my battery, I won't necessarily ride slow, but I definitely won't be doing full throttle and top speeds everywhere. The battery never seems to go down as quick as when I'm doing top speed runs, fast-paced riding, and I think a lot of that has got to do with the battery temperature. So we just hit 40%, and on 40% we have gone 40% and we've done 13 miles. It really doesn't look like we're going to get a lot of range out of this range test today. Don't get me wrong, when you want this bike to do some range, it will do the range. It won't be dying as quick as 20 miles, which I'm presuming is what we're going to get today. There's many days where I will do easily 25-30 miles and still get back to the van with a good 20%. But when you're fast-paced riding within the 10 mile an hour of the top speed, that battery does not like lasting very long whatsoever. I know we're doing a bit of a range test at fast riding, but we've got to try and do the jump, haven't we? Straight through the stinging nettles. Hopefully this field's not very wet. Doesn't feel very wet, but you never know. Right, there's the place we're going to jump. Let's send it. Woo! So normally I land quite smoothly on that, but I absolutely cleared the landing. Considering that's just a little bump in the road, it's actually quite a fun little jump as well. Let's kill this next 1% and we'll see what range you're on. I'll keep an eye on it. 30% and we've done 15.1 miles. I will honestly be surprised if we even make it to 20 miles. So I said we might. We're actually getting the warning of the battery temperature now, which means the battery has got a bit hot. Let's see what temperature she's at. The cell temperature is at 61 degrees. Honestly, it's very rare that I do get the battery warning saying that it's too hot. It is only when I'm absolutely rinsing the bike like I have been. I mean, to be fair, it's not like I've been doing top speed everywhere. I have just been heavy on the throttle, but now that warning's come up, I can definitely feel a decrease in power. It's definitely limited the power as we get through this gateway. We're going to have to take a quick break, let that battery cool down as much as we can. So I guess all we can do now, really, I don't want to be overheating my battery, it's not very good for it. So we're at 61 degrees on the battery. We're at 15.4 miles by the looks of it on 30%. I'm not going to turn the bike off because that gets rid of my miles, but I'm going to have a quick break now, see if we can cool this battery down. I've been stopped for around 15 minutes trying to get that battery to cool down, and this is what you get on the app when the battery does get too hot. So before, we were getting the actual battery temperature showing in a bit of an orange to show that it's getting to a dangerous point. We have got this warning here which says no regen due to battery temperature. In about the 15 minutes I've been stopped, we've gone down from 61 degrees to 58 degrees. So the battery's still pretty hot. I mean, it's only just under the limit that it will be reducing the power. So in a minute we are just going to have to carry on regardless of the battery temperature. It's just going to have to be a risk that I'm willing to take. I don't want to be out while it's dark because the GoPro footage looks bad enough in low light as it is, let alone when it's dark. So I normally don't like to let the battery get below 20%. We're on 30% now. With the riding that I've got left to do, there's a good chance we could be going under 20%, but again, that's just going to have to be a risk I'm willing to take. We've now waited a few more minutes. The battery temperature is down to 57 degrees, so it is now under that limit. We're not getting the warning about cut off regen anymore. Not that I've been using regen, but we're now down below that limit where it's going to be decreasing the power of the bike because of the battery temperature. We've got 30% left to kill. We'll see what mileage we end up on when we get back finishing the route. I guess the only thing we have to do now is get that battery dead. But I can see that battery temperature rising up again to not overheating levels, but the same as it was before, around 60 degrees, 61 degrees. So I can see it decreasing the power, but with how much of the battery we've got left to kill and how far I've got left to get home, we're just gonna have to crack on. Let's get back on this path and we'll rinse through the battery we've got left. I'll check in again probably at 25% just to see what we've done in that last 5%. Woo! I have no idea what percent we're on because I can't see the screen. We're on 23. Oh my god. So we started literally minutes ago on 30%. We're now down to 23%. We've done 16.6 miles and that battery temperature warning is back. So it just goes to show, once that battery's overheated, you've got to leave it for a fair while to cool down. I left it there for a good 15-20 minutes and we'd only gone down 3 degrees. So once that battery is hot, it is not easy to get it back down to a normal temperature. We're on 21%, we'll kill that last 1%. We'll have a look at the range again. Ooh, that was a bum twitcher, back wheel slid out a bit. Ooh. Right, what are we on? Surely got to be on 20% now. Yeah, 20%, 17.3 miles. We literally just hit 17.3 miles. Still got the battery temperature warning. We're back at 61 degrees on the cell temperature, so it's gone straight back up to where it was. All right, let's go back to my normal screen. This is probably going to be the last 10% of battery that I will kill. I doubt I'll go down below 10%, but saying that, with how quick the battery has been going down, I'm not sure. We might even be walking back home at this point. I've never killed a Surron battery. I've never gone below 0%. Oh, sketchy there. But this video, I might just be doing that depending on how long it lasts. All right, now we're under 20%. I've definitely felt a decrease in power. Obviously, we've got that battery warning as well. So it's around the 20% mark that you will feel the sag in the battery, the sag in the power. On the stock Surron controller, that sag used to kick in at like 60%. You'd get anything below sort of 60% on the battery and you'd not struggle to do a wheelie, but you definitely feel that power difference. So this will be the last leg of riding before I say a final battery percentage. We'll get this last bit of riding done and then we'll see the final verdict. You can see that's where I started the video. Final gate of the journey. Keep that closed. Time for the verdict, I think. This is full throttle, so no throttle at the minute, full throttle. That's how slow we are. We're doing 20 miles an hour. I have absolutely destroyed this bike on this ride. I've literally give it all the beans. I could have probably gone faster in places, but I've give it the most beans that I possibly could. It's the fastest I've killed a Surron battery. It's the least amount of miles I've done to a full charge ever, and we are on 11%, so we've nearly gone down to the 10% mark and we have done 19.1 miles, so nearly 20 miles. So we've just made it back home. We've made a right mess of the bike. Not that we started clean today, but as you can see, we've definitely had some fun. Let's take a look at the final mileage and the final percentage. So I'm not sure if you'll see this on the GoPro because I know that this screen does flicker on the GoPro. We've actually got 9% left in the battery. We did 19.4 miles, so you could call it 90% of the battery to 19.4 miles when riding at speeds of that. And it's not even that I was riding at top speed all the time. I was just consistently riding fast, using a lot of that battery current, keeping that motor spinning, obviously getting things quite hot. Like you would have seen in the video, the battery temperature was getting up there, and I still think the battery temperature is going to be pretty high. In fact, I'm going to have a look. So taking a look at the statistics, the battery's on 64 degrees and I'm still getting that battery temperature warning. It says 19.5 miles there, so this has counted the trip as well. If we go to this page, this is where we've got the minimum and the maximum values from that entire ride. So the top speed I got was 40 miles an hour, which we know this bike is capable of doing faster, but top speed was 40 miles an hour. The hottest the motor got was 57 degrees, and the motor is now down at 41 degrees. The hottest we got the battery was 65 degrees, and that's only down to 64 degrees. But with all that said and done, I am going to end this video here. If you're new to the channel, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button for more to come in the future. If you've liked watching this range test on the Surron where we kill the battery as quickly as possible, go and leave a thumbs up down below. With all that said and done, I'm Matt Francis signing out. Peace.